Hello everyone, it's Davide here and welcome back to Learning Finance. In today's video guys, I want to do an update on Palantir because we had earnings, so we are gonna see some numbers. Earnings were great, so in line with expectations, even better. I want to do this update actually because the market has been so crazy that the video that I did yesterday, basically I told you that here the price was going to become decent, if you remember that, but the market opened 10% below the video of yesterday, okay? So I finally bought Palantir stock at the market open. Okay, obviously it's impossible to make instantaneous updates on YouTube. I wasn't even at home, but I bought Palantir at around $17.60 per share. In today's video, we are gonna see some numbers in the earnings, and also I will explain you why I bought the stock so you can understand a little bit what's my process, because sometimes actually people think that I don't like Palantir or I am bearish. The reality is that I like the company, I just wanted a decent price. And today the market offered a decent price, okay? So we are gonna see all of that. The only thing I ask you guys as always is please leave me another like, it's very important and I thank you for it. And subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new updates. Let's begin. If you want to see the full report, I leave you the link down in the description. In this video, I will show you actually what, in my opinion, are the most important parts. And obviously, it's revenue. Revenue, it's up to 341 million for this quarter. It's up 49% actually year over year. Beat expectations because expectations were around 46%, 45%. And an interesting stuff is that they have been adjusted free cash flow positive in Q1 2021, 151 million. Now, if you follow the channel, you know how much I like to see businesses that become profitable, okay? I think that sooner or later, a little bit of profitability growth, it's okay, but a business sooner or later has to become profitable. Now, this is adjusted free cash flow, but the real free cash flow, however, is still positive. I'm gonna show you just in a few seconds what the real free cash flow is. We just have to deduct stock-based compensation from this, and we are still higher. So adjusted margins are huge for the quarter, 44%. However, I don't know whether they're gonna be the same in the next quarters because they say that they have grew billings by 248% year over year, basically resulting in a higher than expected cash flow. Now, I don't know whether this will continue to happen in next quarters. However, they say they expect that in 2021 Palantir will be cash flow positive. So going down, actually we see that the revenue in the US grew by 81%. One thing that honestly I didn't like much, but I hope it will get better going on in the future, is that for this quarter Palantir revenue actually exploded once again on the government side, just a 19% on the enterprises business, okay? So I want to see that changing a bit, but in terms of overall revenue, it's been a great jump, so almost 50% higher. Interesting is that they say that the commercial opportunities in the US and the UK have increased by 2.5x since February 2021. This is obviously interesting. We see that in the same period, active commercial pilots have more than doubled. Now, what that means, if you remember from previous videos, Palantir business plan, okay? Pilots are in the acquire phase, okay? So it's a software business. They give pilots in order to hopefully gain more revenue from that company. So acquire that company as a customer in the future. Remember, acquire, expand, scale. In the acquire part, they give pilots, so reading that they have more than doubled, it means that the likelihood to have more customers in the future is actually more than doubled. This is the thing that I was telling you, okay? Now we see a total government growth plus 76% year over year. Obviously huge. But when it comes to the commercial growth, okay, just plus 19%. Now, I want to see this changing in the future, okay? Because I would like to see that Palantir kind of reduce their revenue streams from the government into more the commercial business. I would really like to see that. Now, this is a very important data. 5.4 billion in total remaining deal value. Okay, plus IDIQ awards as of the end of Q1 2021. Now, this has increased a lot actually since 2020 Q4. And basically what that means are all the contracts that Palantir has signed, but basically they still have to deliver and gain from them. Now, what that means is that they have assigned, so they have a contract, but they still have to actually get that, right? So this is positive. Whenever you see that increase, it means that Palantir business is still going higher in the future. You have to imagine this as a future revenue for Palantir. So obviously, the more you see that, it means that the more money will come, okay, going on. And so this is another important data over there, which has increased, obviously is positive. Operating income is positive, 34% adjusted operating income. And looking ahead, now, first of all, we see revenue growth of 43% in Q2, all right, so to 360 million. Adjusted operating margin of 23%. For the full year, here we go, they expect adjusted free cash flow guidance from break-even to in excess of 150 million. So here is what I was telling you before. They have done 150 million this quarter, but the coming quarters will probably not be that much, because I told you that, as we have seen just a couple of minutes ago, they have an excess in billings, okay, which resulted in an expected free cash flow in excess. But however, the important part is that finally they expect to actually go to break even. And then revenue growth of 30% plus for this year and the next 4 years, basically going into 2025. Now, here the guidance is still the same that they gave, right? So it changed in terms of how they put it, but if you do the numbers, it's still 4 billion by 2025, okay? So still in the same line. What has changed, obviously, has been the price, because from almost 30 per share, this morning was at 17, okay? So it's completely a different deal when you buy the stock. So let's see adjusted free cash flow, what that means. Now, obviously, if you want the real free cash flow, you should deduct 34.8 million, okay? Because the real free cash flows is just 116.8 minus actually the cash used to basically capital expenditures, okay? But here it's adjusted because they basically add cash paid for taxes related to stock-based compensation, 34.8. But on average, guys, is still a nice number, and I'm very actually curious to see whether this and how this will change in next quarters. Another thing, guys, is that once again stock-based compensation has been still quite high in Q1. I want to see that this trend of stock-based compensation decreasing going forward. Okay, so that's something that I told you many times, and I really want to see, because, okay, you cannot go on and do loss from operations and that you put stock-based compensation, but the company should at some point make money, okay, not just give money to the employees and management. But anyway, we will see. This is the number that I don't like. I still don't like, okay? I like those earnings, but when it comes to this, I want to see this going down. Okay, so that's a point that I will continue to actually criticize when it comes to Palantir. But anyway, they have increased research and development expenses. Look at that. This is what I was telling you before. Check week Q1 2020, okay, when the stock was not yet public. They have more than, actually almost 4x of that number. I want to see that to come back down. That's all I'm asking. So obviously when it comes to why I finally bought Palantir, just to make you understand how I actually think when I buy a stock and how I like to buy a stock, because lots of people said you don't like Palantir or you are bearish on Palantir. No, I like the company. I like the idea, this new data analytics market that will probably be very interesting in the next decade. But the thing is that I don't like to overpay for stuff, okay? Now, this morning, actually, when we had a $17 per share, if you remember back in previous videos, basically since 2 months ago, I was talking to you about the $16/$17 range, okay, if you want a nice price for Palantir. And here is why. Look at that. Total revenue from 1.1 billion in December 2020. And remember they said an average of actually 30% for the next 5 years, okay? And here is what actually we get. According to this, 29.68% going into 2025. We see the 4 billion range that they gave in the guidance. And then here we have that the growth actually will slow down. Okay, slow down until a 16%. So this is obviously achievable for Palantir. Now, when you take a price to sales ratio of around 8 or 10, depending on how much enthusiastic you want to be, and then you discount back at a 14% discount rate, you have that with this, you have a fair price of $16.31. This is the thing that I showed you in previous video. And I told you, look, if we get to those prices or near those prices, obviously it's an interesting buy, okay? So it's not that I don't like the company. I didn't want to pay an extreme price. That's all I was asking. So this is why this morning I actually bought Palantir stock. It's not already a full position, but yeah, it's a considerable position, okay? So it's like the 70% of the full position that I would like to have on Palantir. Now, going on briefly on the graph, do I expect now Palantir to skyrocket higher and come back like it did back here? I told you yesterday, and I'm still in the same opinion, I do not expect that. First of all, the guidance, even though they said in a different way, but it's actually the same, okay? Still 4 billion in 2025. And then, as I explained to you, in terms of technical analysis, here we still have this huge resistance, okay? Which was the main support, now is a resistance, and you see how today the price is already being a bit rejected. So, considering also this fear on inflation, interest rates, all this kind of stuff, I told you yesterday and I will tell you today, I still have the same opinion that Palantir will still be under pressure in the coming weeks. What I expect is a bit of sideways going now and then. That's why I didn't bought the full position yet. Then I see the price was just skyrocketing. I don't like to chase the prices, but actually I expect that this will still be a very interesting resistance at the moment, and Palantir just do a bit of sideways. That's why actually I didn't run behind the price. However, I finally found a price that I liked this morning. Obviously yesterday we had around 18. I told you it was gonna become interesting. Today we had another minus 10%. So yeah, I didn't resist. Alright guys, so I hope you find the video interesting, and I hope actually you have understood a little bit how I think when I want to buy a stock. Is just my opinion obviously, but Because sometimes I get people thinking that I don't like a company or I'm very bearish on this kind of. Now, it's not the truth. Most of the times when I talk about a company that I like, it doesn't mean that I want to buy it at all the prices, okay? Because you have a company, an interesting business, but you also have a price. So that's why sometimes I like to wait a bit, right, and do not chase the prices where they are just, in my opinion, too high. So it's all about that. It's not that I am bearish or pessimistic. It's just that I don't like to overpay for things. That's all, guys. I hope you find the video interesting. Subscribe to the channel if you want. And as always, guys, have a wonderful day.